When our youngest son was in elementary school, he came home one day and asked me a question after he learned about Emancipation Proclamation and the Civil Rights Movement that totally stunned me. He said, "Mom, why did it take 100 years from the time slavery ended in our country to when Black people were given civil rights?" I was astounded by his insightfulness at such a young age. I think I said something like, human beings, raising our consciousness is hard, slow work, and it's often met with resistance, fear, and hesitation. I had no idea that concept, how strongly it would reverberate throughout my future work. Over 20 years ago, I was part of a hospital team that was navigating a very tragic case. A 12-year-old boy had been hit by a truck. And despite our trauma team's best efforts, his brain injuries were just too severe. And eventually, he was pronounced brain dead. As part of protocol, a chaplain worked with the trauma team. And this particular chaplain served on a council that I led. And he, along with the rest of us, had taken an assessment. He was in the highest level of intercultural mindset, adaptation, indicating that he would seek adaptive strategies when facing cultural differences. You see, 6 years earlier, I had been hired as a catalyst for change to guide our staff and support our leaders in navigating and embracing cultural differences they encountered. Eventually, the boy's family was approached about organ donation. After many hours and tears, they agreed on one condition: a family member must be present in the operating room when the organs are retrieved. A simple request, really, but one that went against hospital policy. Family members are not allowed in the operating room for important reasons. What happened next redirected my career and reshaped how I engage with leaders and systems that are weary of differences. My life's work has focused on leaders and leader development. Because of that, I began to study human behavior and motivation. But before I go any further, let me clarify. When I say leaders, I am not talking about just formal leaders, those with the title of manager, CEO, administrator. Definition of leadership that I was taught is anyone who influences others towards a common goal. With my interest and my work with leaders and leader development, as I said, I began to study human behavior and motivation. Specifically, I wanted to understand what motivates individuals to embrace and be open to differences. Neurobiologists, neuropsychologists, and evolutionary biologists explain that as human beings, we evolved to favor people who are like us, who look and act like us. It was a survival mechanism, which is why most often people unconsciously, we minimize our differences as a way of getting along with others. But there's been a cultural shift. What do I mean by that? People are much more likely to judge others' differences instead of minimizing as a way of getting along. What is culture? Well, culture is the values, beliefs, norms, attitudes, expectations that are shared by a group. Culture is created by people, so it naturally evolves. And in our current culture, speed and efficiency hold a high value. Yes, as human beings, we're wired for sameness, But it wasn't until the rise in modern industrialization era that we began to see a decline for human differences become institutionalized. What happened is, as human beings, because we're wired for sameness, we look for that in each other. But the industrial era gave us more than machines. It unconsciously rewired a new cultural norm in us, one that is focused on speed and efficiency. But the problem is, our brains, when we encounter speed and efficiency, we're much less likely to be open and curious to other people's differences. So, burnout, disengagement, turnover, those are just symptoms. The root cause is that we expect people to operate like machines when they are gloriously unique and complex. Back in the boys' room, our chaplain sat with the grieving family. He could have easily said, "I'm sorry, it's against hospital policy," and moved on quickly to something else. Instead, he paused and he said, "Help me understand what makes this important to you." It was a question rooted in curiosity and a willingness to adapt, honoring the needs of this family. The family explained, in their Native American faith culture, they believed their son's spirit rested in the heart. They needed a family member to be present, to observe when the heart stopped beating, to say the ceremonial chants, and to set the spirit free. Without that, they feared that their son's spirit would remain trapped, continuing to live in someone else's body. It was a sacred belief, and we were being asked to hold it with reverence. In the hours that followed, our team debated intensely. When the chaplain came to me for support, I understood the gravity of the situation. This wasn't just a hospital policy issue. This was a cultural differences issue. Our American healthcare culture was colliding with this family's faith culture. During our team's meeting, legal issues and safety concerns arose, but something else emerged too: courage, humility, and empathy. In the end, we said yes to their request. And that day marked the first time in our state's 25-year history of organ donation that a Native American family consented to donating the organs of a loved one. Why? Because we slowed down. We listened with empathy. We remained curious, and we acted courageously, honoring the differences of the people in the room while remaining flexible with hospital policy. That experience shaped my doctoral research. I wanted to know what led to the mindset shift and if we could cultivate it in others. Two insights from my research emerged. First, leader mindset matters immensely. When CEOs are in the adaptive mindset, their team and the entire organization is much more likely to engage in meaningful intercultural work. But it's not up to just the formal leaders or the CEO. It's up to every single one of us to put in the effort and develop an adaptive mindset. Second insight from research. Developing an adaptive mindset comes from deep personal conviction. We know from advancements in neuroscience that regardless of our age, our brains have the ability to grow and adapt, and we can rewire our default setting to embrace the differences that naturally exist in each one of us. So, no matter where you lead, formally, informally, in schools, in communities, in organizations, this is your invitation to step into what's next. Put in the effort to develop an adaptive mindset and start creating systems that honor the human need for belonging while celebrating and appreciating the differences that naturally exist in each one of us. Begin the journey within. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. Developing this mindset takes hard work and it's slow. Intentional, consistent effort is what's necessary. But I want you to visualize. I want you to just think, who do you love so much that it is worth you putting in the effort to retrain your brain to slow down, remain curious, and appreciate the differences in them?